This week we are visiting Seashores together. The seashore is a special place where sea meets shore, where water meets land, and there are so many interesting creatures and plants to learn about. Let's sit beside another watery spot, our vernal pool, as we begin to think about life at the seashore. Can you find the tadpole in this close-up picture? I think the tadpole wants to listen too. Hello, Wild Riders of Mamaroneck. Welcome back to our sit spot. There are still tadpoles. I feel that the water level is going down in the vernal pool as we inch a little bit towards summer. We did have snow this week up where I live, but today is a gorgeous spring day. You can see that the leaves are out, even bigger and bigger. In front of me, the red leaves are out. Behind me, the bright green leaves are out. The grass is greener, and you can probably hear the sound of a tractor in the background because the neighbor next door, the farmer, is tilling up the field. If you could smell where I am right now, you would smell the smell of manure because yesterday was also a beautiful day and the farmer was laying manure out on the field so that the crops will grow well. All of these things happen with the seasons. We've talked about so many things about forests, about trees, birds, our nature journals, but today's a little bit different. Today we're thinking about the seashore. This is Seashore Weekend. I don't live near a seashore. I'm much farther from the ocean than you, and I thought I might go to a lake and talk with you a little bit about lake creatures and plants, but then I realized my daughter, Hope, she's a scientist and she's a researcher and a student, and last summer I got to visit her down near you, only about 41 minutes away in Brooklyn, where she was studying horseshoe crabs. So today I have invited her to share with us some of her videos about horseshoe crabs so that you can learn and I can think more deeply about one seashore creature. We were fortunate this week to learn about many different seashore creatures from the naturalists at Sheldrake, and today we'll really think about one a little bit more deeply, and that is the Atlantic horseshoe crab. I have to share with you something Hope showed me and brought to me from her research, and these are horseshoe crab molts. Horseshoe crabs are one of the oldest species that has not changed very much over 450 million years, and you can see this. Here's a larger molt. You can see horseshoe crabs molt their whole exoskeletons. You may have seen dead horseshoe crabs on the beach. They're darker brown than this, and they come out of their bodies. You can see here the little legs and the tail. They come out right here. They slip out between this crack and make a new shell. Each time they grow so much, they need a new shell. So horseshoe crabs are fascinating creatures. They've been around for such a long time, hardly changing at all. So today we will be looking at horseshoe crabs a little bit more deeply, and then we'll talk about our nature journals. I'm really glad you're here, and I introduce to you my daughter Hope. Let's take a trip to Plum Beach in Brooklyn. Only a 41-minute trip from Sheldrake Environmental Center and home to many seashore creatures. Welcome to Hope Vanderwater, a Fordham University environmental science student who researched Atlantic horseshoe crabs at Plum Beach in Brooklyn, New York during the summer of 2019. Let's visit the seashore and the lab to look closely at one tidal and ocean creature, the Atlantic horseshoe crab. When the tide is low, there is so much to find and to look at along the beach. Sometimes scientists bring specimens back to the lab for study. Like birds, snakes, and turtles, horseshoe crabs begin their lives as eggs. A female horseshoe crab burrows down into the sand about 10 centimeters deep and lays thousands of eggs several times a summer. Only a tiny amount survive. They can be green, blue, or even white or pink. See these horseshoe crab embryos spinning in their eggs? They have all of their parts except for their tails. Look into the microscope again, and you can see some horseshoe crab larvae. These horseshoe crabs have just recently hatched. Horseshoe crabs go through several different molts as instars and juveniles. This means that they lose their whole outer covering and grow a new one.
The small one is called the third instar. That's the stage of development he's at. It's the third stage after they hatch out of their embryo stage in the egg. This is when they first begin to develop a tiny tail and swim through the sand by themselves. And then he, next year, will be about this size as he goes through several molts and becomes a juvenile crab. Look at how tiny. Good luck, baby.
Horseshoe crabs move by tunneling through sand. Their color is like the color of sand, and this helps them avoid predators.
Right. So, here's a little juvenile horseshoe crab. What else do you want me to say? This one's probably about 1 year old. Here are two of his eyes. He's got two tiny ones right there, which disappear as they become adults. This main part is called the prosoma. This back part is called the opistosoma, and this little thing is his telson, or his tail. These are his legs. Very hard to see.
And he made that little trail?
Yes. He plows his little trails as he digs into the sand.
Goodbye.
Look at him go.
Atlantic horseshoe crabs are juveniles for between 8 and 11 years. Now Hope will show us some parts of an adult horseshoe crab.
Male horseshoe crab. All this bumpy stuff on his back are called fouling organisms. Some of them are barnacles, some of them are slipper shells or crepidula, which are little shellfish creatures. And then some seaweed gets stuck in the cracks here and grows on their back as well. We flip them over. This is the underside of the crab. This is the prosoma, like the baby has. This is the opistosoma. This is the telson, their tail. These are their legs. And then these back ones are little legs and feet that are meant to dig and to push sand. These are their gills here. He's opening them for us. They're called book gills because they have so many pages of gills, and they're very efficient because they can work in both air or water. He can't pinch you. You can put your hands here. They're very gentle, although they look threatening.
Is this a big one or middle-sized, or what would you say?
This is a small to medium male horseshoe crab. The females can get 3 times the size or bigger. But the males tend to be much smaller than the females.
What will happen if you put him back down?
He'll probably dig himself back into the hole. Yeah.
Thank you for joining Hope and me at Plum Beach in Brooklyn. Now it is time to think about our nature journals. Aren't horseshoe crabs amazing? I just can't believe that the structures of their bodies have not changed in about 450 million years. That shows that they must really be effective at living in a way that means they don't have to change, because their tail does what it needs to do, their prosoma does what it needs to do. You can even see the tiny little pincher claws here for grabbing food. So we're not at the seashore now. Most of us aren't. I'm not. And if you're not, I want you to know that you can still write in your nature journal, and I can still write in my nature journal about a place that I'm not visiting. I can do this, and you can do this by looking at the pages you got from Sheldrake. There was a page of scavenger hunt things to find at the seashore, and I looked at that page, and then I drew beach creatures from looking at it. I drew a ribbed mussel, barnacles, bladder wrack, moon snails here. And here on the other side, I drew slipper shell, a seagull, and clams. It was very helpful for me to look at the page of photographs that we were given from the Sheldrake Environmental Center, and I suggest you try that. Just take that exact page, look at something, draw it. Look, draw. You can copy its name and spell its name just from looking at the page. And as you do this, and as I did this, what happens is we come to understand those creatures better. even if we're not seeing them in person, by looking at a photograph or looking at a drawing and copying the lines that we see and know. It's different from contour drawing that we did last week with trees when we just looked at a tree and not at the paper. Here we can go back and forth from paper to paper. So I enjoyed doing this, and I'll go back and add color. And for writing, and I did another one here too. I did a big horseshoe crab and a sea star. And doing these, drawing these, made me feel like I was at the seashore. If you have the opportunity to go to the seashore this week, you could do what we've done in weeks before, where you pause and actually look at real objects that you find. Or you might choose to photograph some and tape or glue them into your nature journal. Or if you already have some seashore pictures, you could tape or glue those into your nature journal, or look at your own to aid your drawing. I've been reading this book called The Alphabet of the Trees. It's a guide to nature writing, edited by Christian McEwen and Mark Statman, and it's filled with ideas for nature writing. And this and a book by a poet I love, Elaine Magliaro, called Things to Do, gave me the idea for our writing today. Today, I'm going to ask you to think about something on the seashore, or some things. I did too, and think, how would you be that? How to be something, how to be a sea star, or how to be a clam, or how to be whatever on the seashore. And then each line of what we write simply gives directions for how to be whatever that thing is. And some of the lines might be very facty and give a fact about that creature or plant, and some might be a little bit more playful. You'll see with mine. I'll read you each one, and then I'll show you the page. How to be sand. Start your life as bigger things. Maybe shells, maybe rocks. Live a long time. Feel the tides in and out, in and out. Break up tiny. Tickle feet. Here's the next one I have. I didn't do plants or animals. I saved those for you. This one is how to be a wave. Say hello to the beach. Say goodbye to the beach. Carry sea treasures to shore. Be strong. Listen to seagulls. Feel the moon. Never stop. Never stop. Never stop. And that one, we talked, I think, before about repeating, and I repeated that line, never stop, 3 times because it felt important to me. So today, in your nature journals this week, think about the seashore. You might want to go back and re-watch any of the video clips from Sheldrake or about the horseshoe crabs, and you can pause if you want to and draw in your nature journal, or you can look at the pages that you got from Sheldrake, or you can go online or look at any books you might have at home or photographs of the seashore. Do some drawings of the seashore. Feel free to add I notice and I wonders. I need to do this with mine. And then try a how to be. I wrote mine as poems. You could, or you don't have to. But how to be a clam, or how to be a horseshoe crab, how to be a moon snail, and see where it goes. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye. It's feeding time in the lab. Sometimes slipper shells stick to the shells of horseshoe crabs, and these scientists have cut up the bodies of the slipper shells to feed them to the small horseshoe crabs. Notice that the mouths of horseshoe crabs are on the bottoms of their bodies.
Two little front feet in the front are just for grabbing food. So it's just gone. These 2 feet.
Oh my gosh. Give him another one.
He doesn't say please.
He's hungry.
He is hungry.
Don't put your finger in there.
Alright, he'll eat me.
Think about the seashore plants and animals you learned about this week and the ones you have seen in your life. What will you write about? What will you draw? Remember that you can look at books and websites. You can also watch any of this week's videos again before or as you read and write. I hope you enjoy trying a How to Be poem yourself. Right wild, my Mamaroneck friends, wherever you are.